I'm the guy with the red sunglasses, or the curator, or the gentleman, or whatever the hell we feel like doing. Today, we're going to be discussing Plato's Apology. I know what you're thinking. One of those boring ass books, I know. Ugh, scary. Don't worry. I don't like boring books either. So that's why I decided to do this video. And hopefully more videos after it with my team. You can't see them, but I'm going to wave at them so they know. And we're going to do multiple books like this. So hopefully to explain it better to people who have never read it or end up going to have to read it in a course or just feel like learning about it. So, to explain. I don't like Plato, first off. I know. Everybody who's like, what? Why? But I don't like Plato because the Greeks are way too overused. Personally, I believe that. Academia loves the Greeks so much. They love the history of the Greeks. They love all of it. Not to say that the Greeks don't deserve the praise, because they pretty much made Western philosophy and a lot of Western civilization. But that's a story for another time. This isn't about that. This is about Plato's Apology. So, I'm going to explain. Plato's Apology, with a rough overview. Plato's Apology is Plato writing about Socrates, who he is said to have been his teacher. So, Socrates as Plato's teacher, Plato is writing for Socrates. And Socrates is doing this it feels like, it doesn't specify, but it feels like he's literally out in public, standing on top of a box in the street, yelling this big speech to all of the Athenians who will come up and listen in the middle of Athens. And talking about how he's been judged by all of his accusers, and he's being judged to die soon, and all this, and he just wants one last hurrah before he goes away. So to get into it, his accusers, he does not like them. Not one bit. I mean, who does like someone who's judging them and telling them they're about to die for their beliefs? So, to explain, he goes into this big tirade about how he is a humble man. He's like, well, I'm a very humble man. I do not want to sit and stand up here and tell you all that I'm a great man, have great ideas and all this, but the god of Delphi themselves said that I am the wisest of them all. And I even went traveling around and saying that, looking for the wisest of them all, but apparently I am the wisest of them all. To me, it doesn't sound very humble. I don't know what you guys think of humble is, but to me, that's not very humble. So, to continue. Then, after stating that he is humble and explaining how he's the wisest man of them all, he goes into explaining how his accusers are complete dicks and how he does not like them at all. Thinks that they should be the ones being judged instead of him because he's the great Socrates. Why should he be judged when they don't even know anything? When they have their own issues or something like that. Humble? No. Self-righteous? Probably. To go into it more, he has the people, he stands there and just goes on this long speech about how, he just goes into great detail about how terrible each individual accuser is and why they're bad and why they shouldn't accuse him. And one of those is a very interesting question I'm going to ask to you. And he says, can a man believe in spiritual and divine agencies and not in spirits or demigods? Plato says, he says no, right? He says no, you can't. You have to believe in them if you believe in the other. I'm gonna ask you this. What do you believe? Going off of that, right? I don't think that Socrates is real. I know for all the academics that may be listening to this is like, it's crazy idea, right? I think Socrates was created by Plato so that Plato could look better. Because everybody knows Plato now. Everyone thinks Plato, oh, a great philosopher, great guy. Oh, Plato. You don't even know who he is, and you can still know even the name from somewhere in class. But really, there's only two accounts that Plato existed, and they're secondary accounts, right? It's this playwright named Xenophon. I know, spelling that is like Z-E, no, it's X-E, it's weird. And then there's Plato himself, who wrote Plato's Apology. Sorry, Socrates' Apology. And that's why I don't believe he's real, because every other account is not firsthand. He never wrote any of his stuff, anything like that. I'm sure there's going to be some discussion for the 6 people that may or may not watch this over the next 30 years, but I'll leave that to you guys. So, one last thing, before he gets down and says, all right, I'm done, I'm going to go accept my fate to die. As I have been judged, and he says, as I have been judged by these people, so I ask of all of you to judge my sons the way I have judged all of you this day. kind of weird coming from a guy who's trying to be humble and trying to get the Athenians to love him in this moment. That's what it feels like to me, his last hurrah to tell everybody, hey, I'm a good guy. But then he tells them, you know what, I've judged you to be terrible people. And that's strange to me. I don't know, maybe you guys think of it that way. So, now that I've finished my horrible tirade about Plato's apology, I'm going to open the floor up to my lovely assistants, but first, I'm going to call them all out. Our cameraman today, Montalvo.
Here.
My lovely assistant, Nieves. Adams, who's hairstylist, designer, even though I look good naturally.
Sure, whatever.
And then Dave, who is going to probably be my editor for videos and whatnot, and may very well come on the podcast if I ever decide to do that. So guys, what questions have you guys come up with in this little lecture / terrible explanation?
So what I noticed is I don't know if this is tease. I feel like that was intentional. I don't.
Hey, what was laughing?
Go on, Nieves, quit laughing. I mean, he's got a point. I did do it on purpose. So
I feel like you were doing that intentionally, and I want to know why.
I'd like to know why.
I'm not going to.
Okay, so the reason why, in case you didn't hear him, he's asking why I intentionally said Plato over Socrates for the most part of this, is because Plato's the one who wrote it, right? Even though he wrote it about Socrates, he's the one who wrote it, and his quote is known for it. So if anybody ever tells you this is Socrates' apology, I would stand up and tell them, that philosophy professor or whoever, that they're wrong, because I've done it before personally, and that it's Plato's apology, because he's the one who wrote it.
I'm not going to get up there.
Oh, excuse me. Any more questions?
My question is, so Plato said to the people, judge my sons the way that they judge him, right? Or the way he judges them.
That's correct.
And he judges them in not in a good way, right?
So what Socrates ends up doing is that and I have another thing to add to his question about why Plato over Socrates in one moment. So what he says, right, is the entire time he's judging the Athenian people as a whole. He's judging his accusers because they're the Sophists, which is this big political philosophy group inside of that time period. And he believes that they're judging him. But he thinks, because he's the wisest man of them all and has been claimed to be so, that they have no right to judge him. So when he stands up here in front of the people and starts talking to them, he says that he can't be judged. He's judging them by all their faults. He's like, you're saying that I'm a godless man. That's where he came up with the quote, can a man believe in spiritual and divine agencies and whatnot? That's where he came up with that. It's because someone said that he was an atheist. And he's like, no, I believe in the gods. I can't believe in spiritual things because I'm a philosopher and then not believe in gods and demigods. And that's where it comes in. Is he's judging them for all the things that they said that he is and judging himself. So basically every time they throw something at him, he counters with, how can you judge me because I'm the wisest and you're not?
And I don't really think that's being humble.
Exactly. That's what I said. I don't think he's very humble at all.
Also, the fact that he believes in gods but doesn't believe in spirits and things alike.
No, he was the one who said that you have to believe in both. If you believe in spiritual stuff, you're gonna end up having to believe in demigods and gods.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because they're both.
That's one thing I took away that's really well.
They go hand in hand.
Continue. Sorry, he's got stage fright. It happens. Even though he streams on Twitch, Davenport, my editor here, my voice and video editor, streams on Twitch.
Hey, don't say my last name.
Sorry, Mark. His name is Mark. I mean Dave, and he streams on Twitch and things like that. But he really is very shy and quiet. Plays Undertale, by the way.
I'm not shy.
Anyway, what was your question, young girl in the back?
I'm seeing women here.
All right, so hairstylist Adams. I swear he's not gay, but if he is, that's completely okay.
Yes, he is.
I'm trying to think of something.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
I usually get an overnight.
Wait.
I can give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck.
Go.
My question is, what was the counter argument to the fact the other person who said that he could believe in one thing and not believe in the other thing?
He didn't really explain. So Socrates doesn't explain where the counter argument is, where if you can believe in one but you can't believe in the other. He never came up with a counter argument. He just straight up said, "This is what I believe. This is the way it should be." He doesn't really he doesn't really explain if anyone has a counter argument. He just says it.
I've got a really good question.
Another thing, one second. Another thing I forgot to add earlier was the reason why I use Plato a lot instead of Socrates, and another reason why I believe Socrates does not exist, is because Plato likes to, when he does his philosophy and does his explanations of things, he likes to make situations, right? Where in his mind and in his writing, he makes situations, and he puts famous people or people he likes inside of these situations, and they're all fake. And he just says how are they going to react to each other. That's why I don't think Socrates is real. I think he came up with like who my teacher is, who I want my teacher to be, and then he threw him into these situations. How would he react in these situations? And that's how he came up with the story of the Apology. He thinks of himself as Socrates, but he named himself something different. That's what I think.
So basically, he taught himself all of this.
I don't know. He's not acclaimed with a teacher. I don't know for sure because everyone believes it's Socrates who taught him. So everyone thinks Socrates taught him because everyone thinks Socrates is real. I personally don't.
If he was real, was there anything on how he looked?
We're getting off topic, but yes, there is
You don't believe
busts.
Socrates is real? Where do you come from?
There's busts.
Who is Socrates?
Plato created Socrates. Through his writing, he created Socrates. Yes.
Are there any other important people out there that have the same theory as you do?
Important people? I'm not sure. I haven't studied that. If there's anybody that's famous or important. I mean, I believe I'm important to myself.